On my 27th birthday, under the warm rooftop lights and the fake smiles my family wore like perfume, my grandfather lifted his glass and asked Harper, "Show me the latest reports from your $3.2 million trust." My world stopped. "I don't have a trust," I said. The table went dead silent until Mason whispered, "Wait, Mom said you knew." Miranda's smile cracked her eyes, flashing something colder than fear. Because in that moment, I wasn't just learning about stolen money. I was seeing the truth, peel open letters hidden for decades, signatures forged in my name, and an entire year of missing transactions that no one wanted me to find. But what they didn't know was, before I go any further, tell me where you're watching from, and hit like and subscribe if you've ever felt betrayed by your own family. Stories like this don't just hurt, they leave marks that take years to understand. So stay with me, because what happened at that rooftop table was only the first crack. Everything that came after was far worse. I didn't grow up in the kind of house where chaos was loud. In the Reyes home, chaos was quiet, polished floors, perfect curtains, perfectly timed smiles. Silence did most of the damage, not words. And when silence cuts you, you bleed slow. My earliest memory sits at our dining table in Kirkland. I was 5 legs too short to reach the floor, holding a drawing I'd made in class, a lopsided house, a sun with 8 uneven rays. I raised it carefully. "Mom, look." Miranda didn't even turn. She was too busy spooning mashed potatoes onto Mason's plate, praising him for finishing his juice. My dad chuckled at something Mason babbled, pouring himself another glass of wine. No one saw me lower the drawing onto my lap. No one saw the way my throat tightened. That kind of invisibility doesn't vanish. It settles into you. When I was 8, I earned a reading award. I remember the cold bite of autumn as the wind swept across the school parking lot. I held my certificate, carefully guarding it like it was glass. My teacher handed my mom the envelope. She smiled politely, but her attention slid immediately to Mason, who was busy tracing letters on her shoulder. "He learned to spell his name today," she said proudly, lifting him for the other parents to admire. That night, the envelope disappeared. My dad shrugged when I asked. "It's just paper. To them, maybe. Never to me." At 10, I ran a fever so high the school nurse said I was shaking. She called my mom twice. No one came. When the final bell rang and children rushed into the rain, I sat in the front office with my backpack pressed to my chest, eyelids heavy. My mom finally arrived, flustered but irritated. "Honestly, Harper, you always exaggerate," she said, tugging my arm. Then she bent toward Mason. "You want ice cream, honey? You were such a trooper today." Even sick, I understood something being needed mattered more than being hurting. But things sharpened when I turned 16. A summer arts program accepted me full scholarship. It felt unreal, like someone had opened a window in a room I didn't know was suffocating me. My dad skimmed the letter and said softly, "This is impressive." My mom didn't soften. She scanned it once, placed it down, and made her judgment. "This isn't realistic. You need something stable. You're not wasting time on a hobby." I argued for the first time. "It's not a hobby. I earned this." She didn't blink. "And you'll earn something better by being practical." That night, I overheard her on the phone laughing about my little drawing phase. The humiliation stayed longer than sleep ever could. By 18, the favoritism wasn't subtle anymore. It was the air. My mom micromanaged Mason's life, his classes, his hobbies, his social calendar, while I became the dependable background character. "Apply to college alone. Manage your own forms. Don't bother us unless it's serious." So when my application email said my design school submission was incomplete due to unpaid fees, a part of me already knew. I had handed the envelope to my mom myself. Weeks later, she told me she reallocated the money because Mason needed new tires. That was the day something inside me stopped hoping for fairness. I didn't cry. I just felt a cold understanding settle into place. A kind of truth I wasn't ready to name. I didn't know it then, but every one of those moments was a breadcrumb leading straight to what exploded years later. By the time I started working part-time jobs after high school, Seattle had become my only breathing space. At home, the pattern never changed. Miranda curated perfection, Robert absorbed it quietly, and Mason lived inside the center of their attention, like it was his birthright. I slipped in and out like a ghost they barely acknowledged. I took shifts wherever I could: the bookstore on Pike, a late-night design gig for a small cafe, a weekend job sorting inventory in a cramped boutique basement. I learned how to stretch $20 into a week of groceries. I learned that exhaustion feels different when no one notices it. That was around the time I met Arya. She was working behind the counter at the cafe, loud, sarcastic, effortlessly confident. I was delivering sample designs for their new menu board. She looked at my sketches, tilted her head, then said, "You're too good for this job, and too quiet for this city." We became friends faster than I expected. When she learned I was living with 2 chaotic roommates who treated dishes like suggestions, she said, "Pack your bags, move in with me. I like your calm, and you make decent coffee." Her apartment wasn't fancy peeling paint, a view of an alley, the constant hum of bad plumbing, but it felt warm, safe, like someone finally wanted me around. I didn't know until later how much that would matter. Even after I moved out, Mason kept calling me the same way he always had. "Harper, can you spot me gas money? Can you come get me? Mom said you're closer." "Harper." My card declined. "Can you just send like 40? I'll pay you back." He never did. He always sounded casual, like asking me to clean up another mess was normal. And I said yes because back then I still believed helping enough times might finally balance the scales. It never did. Favoritism doesn't negotiate. 3 months before my 27th birthday, I ran into Mrs. Dalton, our old neighbor, in the grocery store. Her eyesight was fading, but she recognized me immediately. She held my wrist, her voice low and warm. "I'm glad your parents recovered from those money troubles," she said. "I prayed for them." I stared at her. "Money troubles?" "Oh yes," she whispered, as if sharing gossip that wasn't hers. "Your mother said they were drowning in debt." Said they had to use everything they had. Everything they had. I carried that phrase all the way home, and it stuck in my mind like a splinter. I didn't know why yet. Days later, I visited my parents before heading back to Seattle. The house looked the same, organized, expensive, empty. Miranda walked me through the kitchen like she was giving a tour to a stranger. You should come by more, she said. Mason misses you. I glanced at my brother sprawled on the couch playing video games on a $1,000 monitor. He didn't look up. Sure, I replied, though none of us believed it. That night, as I drove back across the bridge, the city lights reflecting off the black water, something in my chest felt heavier than usual. Not pain, just awareness. A faint sense that the ground beneath me had been shifting for years, and I was only now feeling the tilt. I didn't know it back then, but every overlooked moment, every missing letter, every half-truth was lining up. The pattern that had followed me my whole life wasn't random. It was deliberate, and it was leading me straight into the storm waiting at that rooftop dinner table. The week after my birthday, dinner felt unreal, like the world had shifted an inch to the left, and nothing lined up anymore. I kept hearing Gerald's voice, calm, pointed, asking about a trust fund I never knew existed. Every time I tried to move on with my day, the memory snapped back like a rubber band around my ribs. The first hit came the next morning when Mason called. His voice was quieter than usual, almost cautious. Harper. Last night was intense. Which part, I asked. The part where Grandpa mentioned a trust, or the part where everyone acted like I was lying, he exhaled. I just thought you knew. Mom said it wasn't really yours. You know, more like a family resource. Family resource, a neat phrase to hide theft. So that's what she told you, I said. She said Grandpa didn't want you dealing with money, that she managed it for all of us, and you believed her. A long silence. Then a tired confession. I didn't think it mattered. It mattered to me. It had always mattered to me. I ended the call before my voice shook. Hours later, Miranda showed up at my apartment without warning. Arya opened the door, blocking half the frame, already sensing the storm coming in behind the perfume. Miranda brushed past her like she owned the place. We need to clarify a few things. I kept my distance. About the trust. Her eyes sharpened. About your behavior. You embarrassed this family last night. I told the truth. You could have laughed it off. Your grandfather is old Harper. You know he forgets things. He didn't forget, I said quietly. For the first time, she faltered. Only a second, but I caught it. Arya stepped in, voice cool. Maybe stop blaming her for your mess. Miranda's head snapped toward her. This is family business. Stay out. She is family, I said. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. Miranda's expression hardened. Nothing good comes from digging into old accounts. Let it go. She left before I could answer, heels tapping against the hallway floor like a countdown. 2 days later, Victor called. He didn't waste time. Your grandfather requested a preliminary audit, he said. You should come to his office. My pulse kicked. How bad is it? Come see. Gerald's office overlooked downtown Seattle, floor-to-ceiling windows, dark wood, the quiet authority of someone who'd built a life through discipline. He sat near the table, papers arranged in front of him, like the pieces of a truth he already suspected. Victor handed me the first report. These are the recent transactions. I scanned the list. Spa treatments, home renovations, Mason's rent, Mason's textbooks, a resort stay in Maui for 2, a luxury handbag. None of it connected to me. He passed me another set. These go back 10 years. Then another. And these go back further. Page after page blurred together, thousands of dollars drained year after year, all signed with variations of Miranda's looping script or Robert's rushed scrawl. Then I saw something that made my stomach drop. My name. My signature, except it wasn't mine. I traced the angle of the letters, the shaky lines. Someone had practiced it. Someone had guessed. They forged my name, I whispered. Victor's eyes didn't soften. Yes, repeatedly. Gerald leaned forward, his voice trembling with controlled fury. They stole from you, Harper, for decades. I tried to stand but needed a moment to steady myself. The room didn't spin, it just felt sharper, too bright, like it wanted me to see everything at once. Victor cleared his throat. There's one more thing. A storage unit. Rented under your mother's name. Paid with trust funds. We believe documents are being kept there. A chill ran through me. What kind of documents? That's what we need to find out. Something in me clicked into place, calm, focused. Then let's go. Because whatever was hidden in that storage unit wasn't just paperwork, it was intent. And intent is where betrayal stops being abstract and becomes undeniable. 2 days later, we drove to the storage facility on the edge of Kirkland. It sat against a stretch of highway, rows of metal units lined like a grid of secrets waiting to be uncovered. The sky was overcast, low enough to touch, and every fluorescent light in the corridor hummed as if warning us to turn back. Unit 217, rented under Miranda's name. Paid monthly from my trust. Victor unlocked it while Gerald steadied himself beside me. The door screeched upward, revealing a rectangular darkness that smelled faintly of mildew and stale paper. Victor switched on his flashlight and the beam cut through the shadows. Boxes. Dozens of them, all labeled in Miranda's neat handwriting. Let's start here, Victor said quietly. The first box held receipts, hotel bookings, designer brands, spa visits. The kind of expenses Miranda pretended were necessities. The second box was more of the same, but the third box stopped everything. Inside were letters, dozens, maybe 100, all addressed to me, all unopened. I froze. These are from Grandpa. Gerald stepped closer, breath catching. I sent you letters for every birthday, every Christmas. I thought... He shook his head slowly. I thought you didn't need them. You never responded. I picked one at random and opened it carefully. His handwriting filled the page, gentle, deliberate. I'm proud of you. Don't let them dim your spark. This money is for you, only you. A folded $20 bill fell into my lap. My throat tightened. She took them all. Victor didn't speak. He didn't need to. I opened another, then another. Each one held something small: encouragement, a memory, a drawing, a little bill he saved from his pension. A timeline of love I never received. Gerald whispered. She wanted control. She always wanted control. I couldn't answer. My voice had vanished somewhere between grief and fury. Victor cleared his throat. Harper, there's more. He lifted a folder from the bottom of the box. Bank statements. The year I turned 18, the year my design program rejected me for an unpaid application fee. There it was. A massive withdrawal labeled emergency loan repayment. Paid from my trust. The exact amount that was supposed to cover my application fees. The air went thin. They used your future to clean up their past, Victor said softly. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Anger is hot alive. What I felt was cold, steady, like frost forming on glass. Gerald's hands tightened around his cane. She stole your choices, and she let you believe you weren't good enough. I inhaled slowly, grounding myself in that moment. I'm not done, I said. And I meant it. That night, I spread every document across my apartment floor, letters in one corner, forged signatures in another, receipts lined up like evidence in a crime drama. Arya knelt beside me, sorting them with the precision of someone who understood what betrayal looks like. You know they'll deny everything, she said. They can try. You don't sound scared. I'm not. What I didn't say was that I felt something I'd never felt before: clarity. And clarity is dangerous when you've spent your whole life being told your instincts were wrong. The next morning, my father called. Harper, your mother is upset, he began, voice shaky. You went through her private things. Dad, I said, leveling my tone. Those were my letters, my trust, my name you two forged. He exhaled a defeated sound. Your mother thought she was making the right choices. For herself, I corrected. Not for me. Silence stretched. For the first time in my life, it wasn't me who shrank in it. It was him. Later that night, Mason texted, Mom's freaking out. What did you find? I typed back only 2 words. Everything, Mason. Because by then the truth wasn't a spark. It was gasoline. And the match was already in my hand. The day of the meeting felt unnaturally still. Seattle's skyline was drowned beneath a gray sheet of clouds, the kind that made everything look colder than it was. When I stepped into the 28th floor conference room, the air felt tight, almost rehearsed, as if the walls themselves were bracing for impact. Gerald sat at the head of the long wooden table, posture straight despite his age. Victor arranged folders with quiet precision, his expression unreadable. I sat beside Gerald, hands steady, jaw locked. I didn't feel nervous. I felt ready. Then the door opened. Miranda entered first, wrapped in a polished confidence that already looked cracked. Robert followed, shoulders drawn and eyes searching for anything but me. Mason trailed last, hands buried in his pockets, face tense with something that looked like guilt. Miranda forced a smile. Dad, this feels unnecessary. Sit, Gerald said. She did, slowly. Victor opened the first folder. These are the audited transactions pulled from the last 20 years. He read them out loud. Mason's rent, Mason's tuition, luxury vacations, a remodel, a credit card payment, thousands withdrawn without explanation. Then $28,000, labeled as emergency loan repayment, paid the same year Harper's application fee went missing. Miranda stiffened. We already explained. You avoided, Victor corrected sharply. You didn't explain. He placed a second stack of papers in front of her. These letters were recovered from a storage unit rented under your name. Her breath hitched. She stared at the envelopes like they were explosives. Robert leaned in confusion, rising. Miranda, what is all this? She didn't answer. Victor slid a final sheet across the table, a blown-up image of my forged signature. Robert's face drained. Tell me you didn't. But she had. We all knew she had. Her voice cracked. Harper would have wasted the money. We kept the family together. We used the trust responsibly. For Mason, I said. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Just admit it. Mason swallowed hard. Then quietly, Mom. You told me it wasn't really hers. You said Grandpa meant it for all of us. Miranda froze, eyes wide. Gerald slammed his cane against the floor, the sound echoing through the glass room like a gunshot. You stole from a child, he said. You manipulated her. You forged her name. You hid every letter I wrote. You robbed her of opportunities you had no right touching. Miranda's mask shattered. Dad, please no. His tone was final. You betrayed my trust. And hers. Victor placed a final document in front of me. This transfers full and permanent control of the remaining assets to Harper Reyes. Miranda lunged forward. Harper, don't, you'll destroy us. I picked up the pen. Her expression shifted through panic, denial, desperation. For years that would have crushed me. Now it meant nothing. I signed. My handwriting was clean, sharp, deliberate. When I set the pen down, the room went completely silent. Miranda collapsed into her chair. Robert covered his face. Mason stared at me like he was seeing me clearly for the first time. Gerald rested a steady hand on my shoulder. And I felt it the moment everything they'd built on lies finally cracked. The building felt colder after the meeting. Maybe it was the weather. Maybe it was the echo of everything that had just collapsed inside that glass room. Gerald left with Victor moving carefully, but with the calm certainty of someone who finally set a broken bone back into place. Mason lingered for a second in the hallway, eyes heavy, then followed our parents without saying a word. When the elevator doors shut, the silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt earned. Later that night in my new apartment, I sat on the bare floor surrounded by the letters from the storage unit. The room smelled like fresh paint and rain, drifting in from the cracked window. I opened a letter at random, Gerald's handwriting, steady, encouraging. full of a love I didn't know I'd been missing. For the first time, I let myself read every word, slowly, completely. I set the letter aside and reached for the folder Victor handed me after the meeting. Inside were the receipts, forged signatures, the audit summary, everything that had finally exposed the truth. But tucked between the documents was something I hadn't noticed before. A gap, a missing year of statements, not a glitch, not an oversight, a deliberate hole. When I called Victor, he didn't sound surprised. You found it. Yes, I said. Why is that year gone? He paused. Because whatever happened during that year isn't simple misuse. It's something your mother couldn't risk anyone seeing. Not your grandfather, not me, definitely not you. I rested my hand on the folder. So there's more. A lot more, he said quietly. And Miranda knows you're close. I hung up and looked at my reflection in the dark window, someone quieter than the girl who lived in that old house, but sharper than the woman who walked into the meeting earlier. They thought today ended everything, I whispered. It didn't. The truth we uncovered was only the surface. And now I had the documents, the letters, the paper trail, pieces of a story they tried to bury 1 year at a time. If they wanted it all hidden, they should have hidden it better. Because now I wasn't just the girl they ignored. I was the woman who finally had proof, and I wasn't done yet. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, you're not alone. Stories like mine don't just leave scars, they teach you exactly who stands with you when the truth finally comes out. And if this journey hit something inside you, hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because this isn't the end, not even close. There are still missing pieces, missing years, and answers my family hoped I'd never find. But I'm done staying quiet. Stay with me. This story is far from over.